welcome back to the Busy Fan. Today is Tuesday, July 14th, and I'm here to keep you up to date on everything that's been going on in the sports world to make sure that you're all caught up. Obviously, as you know, there hasn't been a lot going on, no competitive sports. Soccer's kind of coming back, and things are set to come back, but we're going to fill you in on everything that's been happening behind the scenes so that you know what everyone's talking about, and you'll know exactly what to be paying attention to and what you can talk to. So we're going to start with the NFL. The biggest thing that happened in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, he signed a 10-year extension. It's worth $450 million on top of the 2 years. He has 2 years left on his contract for $27 million a year. And this is an extension on top of it. This will make him the highest paid quarterback currently, and it's the largest contract done in sports. It's not fully guaranteed, so there's a little. Some people are like, well, it's not the largest contract because there are some incentive-based things in there, but it's the largest. It's the highest paying possible contract. So a very big deal for him. 10-year, $450 million deal, so $45 million a year. Really, I believe Patrick Mahomes did this to save the team money. Right now, he'll be the highest paid quarterback, but down the road, he definitely won't. The market will just keep going up and up and up for these quarterbacks. And so by doing that, he's saying, hey, right now, while I'm cheap, while you got me for 27 million, like use that money to keep these weapons, then we'll pay me, and then the cap space will just keep moving up and up, and you won't have to pay me anymore. We'll just stick with the 45 million a year, which is a ton. Like sounds like a lot to us, but when this first came out, I was thinking of Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen signed a deal with the Bulls, a super long. I think it was a 7-year contract, and when he signed it, it was a good deal. And then by the end of it, rates had risen so much, and the NBA had just like taken off. And so players were making way more than him, and he was one of the best players in the league. And so there was this big ordeal. And that's on everyone's mind right now because it wasn't too long ago that we were just watching the Michael Jordan documentary that paid attention to that specifically. So I think Patrick Mahomes did this knowing, hey, I will always be fine with living off 45 million a year, right? Eventually, that'll be a break for the Chiefs when other people are paying their quarterbacks in the 60s and all this stuff, and they're getting him for 45 million, and they can continue to add to his team so that the Chiefs are as good as they are right now. Because that's the real thing right now: is do you take as much money as possible, or do you not take as much money? That's a Tom Brady strategy. Tom Brady would not take as much money. He was the best quarterback in the league, and he was not nearly making as much as the best quarterback in the league should be making. But he was like, hey, I want you to build a team around me, build a defense, and they won a ton of Super Bowls. And I think part of the credit goes to that. However, Tom Brady's married to a supermodel who makes more money than he does, so he wasn't hurting for money. And so people are always like, "Hey, what do you do?" I think when you're young, you take the money, right? You get as much as you can because you never know when an injury is going to happen. Super Bowls are great. Patrick Mahomes already won a Super Bowl. I'm sure he wants to get back there and keep as many assets on his team as possible, but he's so young right now, still in his rookie contract, that I think this is a great deal for him because he's getting paid. He'll get paid in the next couple of years, make all that money, and then eventually the what would have happened before is they would have had to renegotiate. And let's say you signed a 5-year contract. That's pretty normal when you really want your quarterback to stick around. You sign a 5-year contract, and then the league will look and they'll say, hey, Patrick Mahomes is making 45 million a year. So let's say somebody else wins the Super Bowl next year. That quarterback, when he was getting re-signed, he'd say, hey, I won a Super Bowl. I'm the best quarterback in the league. I should be making more than that guy. And so the rate just keeps raising and raising and raising. But with the 10-year deal, there will be none of that renegotiation. Patrick Mahomes is saving the Chiefs a ton of money, planning on getting back to the Super Bowl. That's how I feel about his contract. That's why I think it's structured the way it is. Again, it's not all guaranteed. There's I have it here, $140 million injury guarantee. So bare minimum makes $140 million. I think he'll be fine with $140 million. Hopefully no injury happens. Hopefully he is rocking it those 10 years and just keeps doing what he's doing because he's so fun to watch. So that's the NFL. Let's move to the NBA. There's a lot of news that happened in the NBA. I'm going to quickly go over some of the less important things, but things to pay attention to. J.R. Smith, he did officially sign with the Lakers. People have been talking about it for a while, speculating that he was going to since Avery Bradley's not playing anymore. But J.R. Smith, again, for those of you who don't know, longtime teammate of LeBron, has followed him place to place to place. Didn't follow him to the Lakers. Now he has signed with the Lakers, and so he'll be back with LeBron. There's some discussion. This was a bigger point of topic like a week ago, but the NBA is talking about making a second bubble in Chicago. So for the teams that didn't make it to the bubble in Orlando, I think it's a bad idea because it's a waste of time because none of those teams can make it to the playoffs. That probably just want to tank anyway so they can get the best draft pick. Maybe the rest of the world thought that too because it's kind of just disappeared and they haven't talked about it very recently. But that was one thing to pay attention to is a second bubble for the teams that weren't good enough to make it to Orlando. Um, let's see. Oh, there was also some things that came up like Gordon Hayward. He said, "Hey, if we're in the playoffs and we make it to this round, and my wife is giving birth because she's expected to do that in the next month or so," he's like, "Well, I'm gonna leave the bubble, and then." If we're still playing, like I want to come back eventually, NBA needs to figure that out. So the NBA was like, yeah, that's an improved reason to leave. They're figuring all that stuff out. So there will be exceptions, but they've been pretty strict. One guy, let's see if I have his name here, Rashawn Holmes of the Kings. They have a line around the bubble that they call it in Orlando. You're not allowed to cross that line. Well, he crossed that line to go pick up. It was like DoorDash or one of those food delivery things. He went to go grab it from the guy and because of that, the NBA has locked him down for 10 days. He's not allowed to, he has to quarantine, can't see anybody, talk to anybody, which, I mean, sounds a little ridiculous because it's just he crossed a line, like a literal line. Um, but, I mean, I guess you have to draw the line somewhere, right? If you said, okay, no, we're not going to do anything, like eventually people would just leave. So I get what the NBA is thinking here. It's just, sounds kind of ridiculous. Um, let's see, keep going here. On July 7th, there was 332 NBA players who were all tested in the bubble, and let's see, two tests came back positive. Michael Beasley from the Nets was for sure one. There's a couple other players who have tested positive, but we're not like really sure when they tested positive. But Michael Beasley's been sent home. Um, and then injuries in the NBA. So Rajon Rondo, he broke his finger. He had a hand injury, and it's 6 to 8 week recovery. So we were all worried about injuries happening when this all started again. We were thinking more muscle injuries and fatigue stuff. Not really thinking about this, but hard for the Lakers losing one of their point guards, Rajon Rondo. We wish him the best. Hopefully, he has a good recovery. It was when I saw the headline though that it was, hey, injury, Rajon Rondo injury. I was like, oh crap! Like this is what everyone's been talking about, and then you find out it's like has nothing to do with COVID the or not playing basketball. It's just a hand injury. Um, let's see. Oh, back to football really fast. This was really interesting. So Myles Garrett, he signed a 5-year, $125 million contract with the Browns. So those of you who don't know, Myles Garrett is a defensive end for the Browns. He's one of the best defensive ends in football. The reason why this is so it's not weird that he's getting paid a lot and signed a 5-year contract, except for he was suspended the last half of the season last year for taking off the opposing quarterback's helmet and then hitting him with said helmet. So the last time we saw him was not like halfway through the NFL season last year, was not a good thing. Everyone saw it. People were talking about, hey, this is battery, like they should go after him legally, all this stuff. And then the Browns signed him to a 5-year deal. So they must have been impressed with his apology and he must have like shown that he's got his anger in check or whatever. But that's kind of a big story. And then finally to end, in baseball, Yasiel Puig, former Dodger, then Red, he signed with the Atlanta Braves. So there's everything you need to know about the sports world. Again, not a ton to talk about, but Make sure you're following the Busy Fan, and we'll keep you up to date. Thanks.